Welcome to the Onyeka Nwelue show. In the studio, we have Mr. Lidu, a writer and a filmmaker, also a photographer, born in South Africa. He won the Kemp Prize in 2016 and studied film at Big Fish Film School. Hello, Lidu.
Hello, how are you, man?
I'm good. Please, your name is longer than any other African name I've known. Can you pronounce that for us?
My name is Lidudumalingani.
And what does that mean?
It means thunder without rain.
Interesting. In Yoruba mythology, there is a god called Shango. That's the god of thunder.
Yeah?
And that brings me to an interview of yours where you said you don't like school.
Yeah.
Can you expatiate on that?
I mean, I've said so many things, sometimes I'm just like, did I really say that? But if it's on record, I guess I did.
It is on record.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I was speaking from a place of that I didn't enjoy school.
Okay.
One, because I didn't know what I wanted to be, and until I was in matric, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so I feel like I didn't go to school with the intention of becoming anything because I had no idea. And then when I went to film school, I also felt like after 6 months or a year, I was I guess happy with what I knew, and I was fine with learning on the job. And so I feel like most of the time school can be a bit slow, and I don't like slow.
But do you think there are young people who look up to you that might want to theater the same way, the same path as you?
I hope not. I mean, Look, I think to learn to write or to learn to make films or photography, one needs to go to school. Even though maybe I'm not a big fan of school, I had to go and I did. So it's a good idea to go so that you can have some knowledge of what you want to do, and then when you're at the job, then you can kind of rethink what you are doing and rethink everything you learned and begin to, I guess, create images in a new way or create literature in the way that you want it.
It's been a long time we've been waiting for a novel from you. When are we going to have this book?
So I've been working on this novel, I guess, since 2017, and now it's 2020. It's been a couple of years, and it doesn't feel ready at all. But in the last few months this year, I've begun to work on it again. So I hope at least by June it should be with the publisher and ready to get out whenever that happens.
Meanwhile, before you continue, I wanted to ask what you did with the Kemp Prize money.
I did some stuff, man.
Like what?
So the Kemp Prize money was interesting because when I...
And how much was it?
About 200,000 rand.
No, in pounds.
10,000 pounds.
10,000 pounds.
Yeah. So, I mean, I at the time I was working a job that I did not like. I was working for a tech magazine writing about iOS and iPhones and Microsoft and all those things. So I then quit that job to concentrate on writing. So that money went into rent and groceries and things like that.
It's finished.
Exciting things like that.
So could you tell, I would like to know a little bit about the novel you're working on.
Yeah.
Is this something you want to share publicly?
I mean, when I got the funding from the Miles Morland, they kind of shared a little bit.
I didn't even mention that. You're getting a lot of money.
That money is also finished now. So maybe we should not talk about it.
Okay.
I just, chow all this money on nothing. Like coffee and wine.
Wow.
Is where I spent my money on. Should probably invest, but I'm not that smart.
No, but drinking wine is investment, isn't it?
I think it is, because then you get the fingers working on the keyboard, and so you are writing a little bit. So I mean, the book that I pitched, I guess, was a very kind of specific idea of what I wanted to do. The book that I have is really about a boy growing up in the villages and the different stages that he goes through in his life So both emotionally and both personally. So it's about, I guess in a way it's about, so it's structured in 3 stages, I guess, when he's a teenager, when he's at university, and when he's working. So that's kind of like the time of the novel.
Do you have any idea when you're going to submit this to your agent?
Yeah, so the idea is to submit it by June. The funny thing about
June.
Yeah. Is it far?
Very far.
What? I'm busy, man. I'm doing other things.
Photography?
Yeah, photography, but I'm also writing a non-fiction book.
Oh, okay. About?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Okay.
But it's I mean, I can say this. It's a book on a television show. A very iconic television show in South Africa, which came out in the 1980s.
And that reminds me, you write for what TV show?
Scandal.
Scandal.
On
yeah,
ETV.
We discussed that yesterday, I still forgot.
Yeah, so I write for a TV show called Scandal on
Okay.
ETV.
Okay, you have a lot of money.
Every day at 7:30, tune in or something.
Oh, you're using my platform.
Promote it on your show.
So I think you're a very comfortable writer, financially, I would say. And I assume you're a very comfortable writer. And I think most writers love or give back to their societies by instituting prizes, residencies, and all these things. Do you have any plans of getting involved in building the society with what you have earned from it?
I mean, I think most of my giving back is through reading people's short stories and helping edit and not charging people. So if someone is putting together an anthology of short stories, I like when it's new writers. I like to get involved with its voices that I've never heard. A conversation with the writers about their stories and how to write, and I guess in a way, ideas around what they're trying to do and how their voices can come across a lot more. My other thing that I really like to do, because I come from the villages and I didn't grow up with books. So the one thing that I also like to do is to collect books and donate them to local libraries in the villages. So, so that's the way that I give back.
Who do you consider as your favorite writer?
You, of course.
Oh no!
What kind of question is this?
You're crazy, eh?
Ben Okri.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I really like his poetry, and I really like so my novel is very much, when I was writing the novel, the way that I justified to myself the genre is that, when you read poetry, in poetry there's no warning that this is magical realism or whatever. You just read it and you buy into the idea that poetry is selling you. So I'm thinking very much about my novel as that. There's parts in it that I wrote where I'm just like, you can't explain it with facts what I'm writing. But growing up in the villages, I know there's certain belief. For example, there's a certain forest that was believed that if you walk through it, you can't look back, or else this creature is gonna come out and eat you. And so that's in my novel. I guess if I have to explain that to Western readers, they won't get it. But I come from the villages. I'm just like, that's it.
But to cut into what you're trying to explain, isn't that called fantasy in the West? And then when it's written by an Nigerian author, South African author, Indian author, it's called magical realism.
This is true. And so also because I come from the villages, and I mean, I go back to the villages every year. When I was writing it, I was not even trapped in the conversations around describing it. For me, it's something that I experienced as a child and had been talked about, and that was good enough for me.
And because when I read The Famished Road by Ben Okri,
yes,
I was reminded of Harry Potter.
Yes.
And it's not many people took cognizance of the fact that the character in The Famished Road could as well be Harry Potter.
This is true. I mean, even in I think it's a sequel after The Famished Road, the smaller one.
Yeah.
I mean, it begins with the child, and you're just like, this could be Harry Potter in a film. You could see it as a film. I mean, I guess there's all those connections, but my point of departure, I guess, is always being a village kid and hearing all of this kind of like otherworldly stories that you don't question because everyone seems to believe it, and so you believe it. And so that's, I guess, where I work from.
Okay, your favorite writer is a Nigerian writer.
Yes, this is true.
Wait, and then you were in Nigeria for Ake Festival, right?
Yes.
What was the shock for you in Nigeria? What did you see in Nigeria that said, oh, this doesn't happen in South Africa?
The amount of black people at a literature festival. Like,
oh, that even makes me now ask this question. Why do we call ourselves black people?
I mean, this is something that you are passionate about, so maybe
Yeah.
I should be asking you, right?
No, you just said you saw black people, but I don't use the term black.
Yeah, you don't. I guess in the default of racial politics in South Africa, it's always been black and white people, and so that's kind of the default that South Africans have that conversation. Yeah.
But I want to say something a little bit unintelligent. It's always the battle between the black and white people. Then what happened to the Japanese? What happened to the Chinese? What happened to the Lebanese? What happened to the Arabs?
Yeah.
Why are they called black and white people? Their skin color
Isn't black.
It's
Oh.
not black and white. Yeah. Why?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't done extensive reading on that.
No, but it's your job as a writer to be able to say this is not true.
My work, I guess, doesn't deal with those kind of politics, and so I haven't had the time to read extensively and interrogate that.
I'm sorry, we have to go on break. When we come back, we continue on the issue of colorism. Welcome back to the Onyeka Nwelue show. We still have in the studio Mr. Lidu, writer and filmmaker. We're just talking about colorism, black and white, and we continue from there. Sorry for cutting you last time, but I'm interested in the discussion on colorism. So, do you have any idea why Africans are called black people?
I don't.
Do you have any idea why Europeans are called white people?
I don't.
But why do you, as a writer, propagate this colorism?
I don't know if I propagate it. What do you mean by propagate? I haven't written any work that insists that white people are white people.
No, but in our discussion earlier, you said when you went to Nigeria,
Because that's my default. That's the racial politics and the racial divide in South Africa.
and you don't think you can stop using the term.
No, I don't find it in any way offensive.
I find it quite offensive
Why is that?
because the color black is inferior, and in most religions, like in Orisha worship,
Yeah.
in Yoruba mythology, in Voodooism, we don't wear black because it's considered to be misfortune and inferiority.
Mhm.
So we wear red and white, which white is superior.
In my culture, we wear black. I mean, the traditional Xhosa clothing is black and white.
But you also understand that during funerals they wear black, which means that black represents sadness.
Look, I think the idea, I guess, of the connotations or the understanding of the color black that exist are not something that I subscribe to. So I don't necessarily think that by saying black, I am automatically saying that it's bad or inferior, because I don't think it. I don't think black
Okay,
people are inferior.
even if we remove all this symbolism,
Yeah,
you're wearing black, right?
yeah,
And that is not the color of your skin.
for sure. I can accept that.
Taiwan.
If that's what you want, yeah.
Meanwhile, I read somewhere that you worked on a film script for 4 years.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I mean, I guess it's not every day working on the film script, which 4 years suggests that, but it also suggests, that I'm a very serious writer who thinks about stuff. So I sometimes just say that so people think, so you were thinking about it for 4 years. I'm like, no. I mean, so the script that you specifically referring to, I guess, is a script that I began when I left film school. And what I really wanted to do, it was during over December period, and I wanted to actually finish a film script. So I sat down for 3 weeks and I wrote it. And over the few years after that, I continued to send it to people and make notes on it. But it never became a film, so it's still kind of sitting in my
So
computer.
it's more than 10 years.
Now it's more than 10.
So you would say, I wrote this script for 10 years.
Thank you. And then when people watch the film, they're like, I can tell he wrote it over 10 years. That's my plan. That's what I'm working on.
This sophistication, does it have anything to do with your fashion sense, your hair, your glasses?
Oh no, it all has to do with vanity for me.
The way you talk.
I want people to think of me as being smart and thinking. And in actual fact, I have not read a single book in my life. And have not watched a single film. I just pretend that I have.
Perhaps your sense of humor reflects in your writing, does it?
Oh, this is the funny thing. There's not a single joke in my manuscript for the novel. So rewriting it, I've been trying to find moments of humor which didn't exist before, because I guess I was so bogged down by trying to write a story that has structure that I didn't think about, that people can also be funny. So
I would like to know of your experience in Nigeria. What was it like? Is it like what you heard about the people? All these Nigerians are criminals and scammers. Did they scam you there?
So, I mean, I had the most great time in Nigeria. When I arrived at the airport, actually, I bumped into a Raphael Chukwu. Who used to play for Sundowns, I think.
Okay.
And then I met a guy who was trying to hustle me for exchanging the money that I had for the money that he had. But because I was there for a festival, I didn't need the money, so I was like, no, I'm good. I don't need to exchange any money. But I had a good time. I ate so much food. Eating the whole time.
Do you remember the names?
No. I remember I'm sure it's called with a certain name, but I remember eating the fish.
Okay.
I was like, I want it every day. I want to eat the fish.
So you want to go back there again?
I'm trying to lose weight now, so that's not going to work for me. I came back and I was round, and I was only there for like a week.
Please, when do we expect the non-fictional work you're doing?
So the non-fiction work is supposed to come out late next year.
Okay.
So that's going to be quicker.
So you've received an advance for that?
Yes.
How much?
Oh no, I'm not going to talk about that.
Why, you don't want to you don't want to make new friends?
Yes.
You don't.
I don't. I'm good. I don't want people to let's go out for drinks and then I'm stuck with the bill.
What's your opinion about Things Fall Apart being called the great African novel, the greatest novel written by any African?
You don't think it's true?
No, I'm just asking you. What is your opinion?
Look, I honestly liked the book because I read it when I was much younger. The greatest African novel? I'm not sure about that.
Because she's the greatest African novel then.
I don't have one.
Okay.
I don't have one. I think I also don't know if I want for any book to be the great African novel. I guess I want all the books that people read to kind of mean something to them rather than for us to agree on this one novel, because I don't know if we will ever agree.
There was a conversation you had about decolonization, which Ngugi wa Thiong'o has been having for a long time.
Yeah.
And Ngugi has this conversation from the United States of America about decolonization. And in your conversation, you also said that the problem is us having this conversation in English language.
Yeah.
And Ngugi says, let's decolonize Africa. I'm an Africanist. He lives in the United States, which I find very problematic. As a Pan-Africanist, I expect him to be in Johannesburg or in Nairobi or Lagos and operate from here. And then at a point he stopped writing in Gikuyu again and started writing in English.
Yeah.
And he's still talking about decolonization.
Yeah.
Do you think that the older generation of African authors are honest people?
Honest people? I mean, I guess they are to an extent.
Okay, are they honest to their professed
Okay,
activism?
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, I guess that question is also true for activism today, right?
Okay.
Because I also think the ideas of decolonization, people also speak about them now in literature, and again, and then they kind of write these books that have all these words in English that are so big that the idea that they're trying to get across doesn't work because you're also using a language that is alienating the reader. So I guess in a way, I mean, Ngugi operates in a kind of space where you're right, he could be based in Johannesburg, but he's not. And I think that a lot of the African writers who say, I mean, what's the Kenyan writer?
Ngugi?
Your friend.
Binyavanga.
Binyavanga.
So rest in peace.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So he also wrote him in his book, and he was not living in the African continent when he was talking about how not to write about the African. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess it's all these ideas of. It's strange when people talk about those politics and they don't live here and they want to represent people that live here.
Yes.
And so I guess it's all like muddled up in one, people want to be in a USA university so they're allowed the time to write, as opposed to being in Africa and kind of like working out of my village and suffering because I have no electricity or whatever. I mean, so I will agree with you that these conversations are not completely honest because people are still, I guess, trapped in, I need money to work, or I need a university to house me for me to produce the work and all of those things. So we are all kind of working within some kind of restricting parameters or even contradicting parameters.
Right to that takes me to one of my favorite people in the world, Zex Nda. Have you read his works?
I have, and it was also prescribed in school when I was in school.
Okay.
So yeah.
Have you met him?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Okay.
A couple of times.
What is your opinion about his writing?
I love it. I love it also because it's slightly historical.
Okay.
So you can read his book and begin to read your own history in a slightly different way, and so that I really love.
Once I talked about Amati Ohara, there's a Igbo god of thunder on my Facebook, and he encouraged me to write more about African. He said there's no wrong in African mythology, that you should propagate it and write it the way we think about it. And I found that very fascinating, because when people talk about Game of Thrones and the rest of them, many Africans actually believe that Martin wrote a historical, like that the Game of Thrones is real.
Yeah.
They believe it stems from history.
Yeah.
And we haven't done much of that as African writers.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, so in South African television, the landscape is changing a little bit. So there's two shows that are coming up. One is on Xhosa Wars.
What are their names?
Of the shows. Yeah. So the show is not on air yet, so I don't know what it's called. I just know that there's filmmakers who are working on a television show about Xhosa Wars. So it basically chronicles the entire Xhosa Wars with the different chiefs and the ways of warfare in the Xhosa community and Xhosa land. And then there's another one on Shaka as well. So I completely agree with you.
Stories on Shaka, there are many of them, really. Because in Nigeria,
lots. There's lots of them.
Yeah.
So, but there's a new show coming out that's currently being shot and being made. So I think you are right. I think people are beginning, in some ways, to return, instead of being fascinated with the Game of Thrones, which is completely made up. People are beginning to return to historical books, and they're beginning to mine those stories for television and literature.
Anyway, you say your new fiction will be out next year. The non-fiction will be out next year.
Yes.
And you have no idea when the fiction is going to be
submitted next year.
To
No one
not even
knows.
getting a publisher.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap up our conversation with you telling young Africans because most of them believe that we writers are poor and we don't have any headway in life. I'm sure most of them are fascinated by the way you look, and you should encourage them to dress up this one, wear glasses, and speak.
Thank you. I think everyone should. They should come to my class on how to speak like a writer.
What is your last word for young Africans?
I mean, I think it's really important to kind of read and write. I think it's important to kind of read widely. I'm getting a little bit frustrated that the reading culture is seeming to kind of narrow and narrow. There seems to be a certain kind of writers that people think we should read, and it's only those writers that matter and are saying important things. And I think if you're a young writer, the important thing to do is to read widely, both people that are writing about politics today, but also people who are writing before, so that, you know, our literature isn't just paragraphs and paragraphs of self-love.
Thank you, Mr. Lidu, for coming on the Onyeka Nwelue show. And here we come to the end of the show. Keep reading.